Hi.
Yeah, no, I can't hear you anymore.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I've pushed something up against my jack. All right, good morning. Well, we're just waiting for a few more people. I know Christine won't be joining us. She's studying for finals, and obviously when we meet at 11:30, it's 2:30 a.m. for her. So,
Wow.
yeah. So she's going to rest up per her doctor's orders, and we will miss her, but I told her she could watch the replay. So how have you guys been?
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah?
good.
I know, Genesis, you've had a cold, right?
Yeah, I'm just getting over it.
Yeah, and I am trying to catch up on sleep with my daughter being in the hospital, so I'm I'm not my perky self today. Hi, Valerie.
Okay, sorry. I
That's
think
okay.
I tried to join with the first email.
Uh-huh.
If you want to watch, and I
I know,
say
I don't. That's the problem I was having when you guys, I lost you last week on the podcast review, and I couldn't get back on. It was just letting me watch what we had already recorded. So
oh,
sorry about all that. Well, welcome to week 3. Be positive. We're just missing Christine this week, as I explained for those of you who didn't hear me. She's studying for finals, and she's in the Philippines. And so normally when she meets with us, she's actually sacrificing her sleep and meeting with us at 2:30 a.m. her time the next day. So, I excused her from today because her health is most important, as I would do for any of you if that ever happened. Welcome, Kathy. Can you hear me? Okay, good. All right. So I hope that last week, I saw a lot of you did the work. I got most of emails from everybody, not everybody though. So I encourage you, if you haven't sent your reflection or your limiting versus empowering beliefs or anything else that you want to share, like Valerie was awesome. She sent me, a lot of the workbook pages that she did. I think that's, it's really great for me to help me to get to know you. Can
yeah.
you all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Isha. Welcome.
I'm sorry, I have a sore throat today. I'm not
You
well.
do too. Okay, so we're all being hit hard with those curveballs, and this is
What about your daughter? I'm a
my
little.
daughter. Okay, well, um, good news is she's home with us, and we only spent 5 hours in the emergency room. Poor little thing woke up screaming with chest pain, and we tried everything like to, maybe heartburn, and couldn't get her comfortable, and she literally thought she was dying. I thought maybe she was even having a nightmare at one point, like
Gosh.
couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth, but she was extremely adamant that she needed help. Um, and on our way to Las Robles, she started vomiting, unfortunately, and so that was concerning. But luckily, the ultrasounds of all of her organs were normal, which was great. We didn't know if it was appendicitis or a gallbladder attack, even that's pretty rare for a kid her age. And but her she's got a high white blood cell count in both blood and urine, and poor little thing, her X-rays revealed that she had just severely constipated, literally all the way up, all of past the colon, past the larger intestine, and so unfortunately, she's had to learn that she needs to communicate with mom that going to the bathroom, not on a regular, consistent basis is not good. All my children have suffered from this, and myself even included, that, so I'm putting her back on Miralax. We started her on antibiotics. They've sent her home, and she needs to follow up with pediatrician, but she's got reoccurring urinary tract infections that are, we've been looking at the cause with her specialist. So I think that contributes to that because of the way women's anatomy is. And anyhow, thank you for your thoughts and prayers. I mean, we'll see how she does at school. I just, it's a bummer that she keeps getting these infections, urinary infections. So yeah, so I'm suffering from lack of sleep, and started getting a headache, of course. So I understand colds and sicknesses. My oldest daughter's had that. So you guys make sure you get rest. This is really great to understand the concept of why I've been trying to teach you, or have been teaching you rather, but encouraging you to understand creating margins and how critical it is, because we need that margin in our day to allow for things that are unexpected, like hospital visits or illnesses, right? And also, too, I think by having the margin in the day really helps combat getting sick. And the more time we take time to rest and be still, connecting with our intuition, slowing our mind down, slowing our life down, adding those 5 minutes and increasing them as you're successful with that 5 minutes a day. I encourage you to increase it, whether you increase it to 10 up to 20 minutes a day, or you break them up into 5 to 7 mini breaks throughout your day. Do you all feel that you are becoming more consistent with that, or are you finding it is tricky to do it?
Tricky.
Yeah.
So I find a bad habit, and it's hard to change it.
It is, and I understand that it's tricky. I remember how painful it felt for me to lie down and be still and develop, good breathing and connection. But I promise you, I plead to you to incorporate, even if it's 3 minutes you start out with and you increase it to 5 minutes. If you focus on your breath during that time, that will be your greatest resource, by far the largest and most impactful resource for you, because that being still has a multiple facets to benefits. The first one is your breath. When you become consistent with watching your breath while you're being still, not hanging on to the thoughts or dwelling on any one thing, the breath is going to be your strongest resource that will counter any negativity that you experience or conflict that you come in touch with. It is what transfers you from an irrational period or moment in your life to a rational moment in your life. It is the breath. And if you practice it during your be still, if you use that time to just focus on your breath, then you're going to be that much closer to learning how to just intuitively and instinctively access your breath in a moment of total distress. Meaning, if someone's coming at you and confronted you and you're finding yourself, oh my gosh, you want to attack, you want to react, you're having bombarded almost with that debilitating physiological response. Use your breath to center you. Take 3 deep breaths, pause before you think, and that's really what we're going to be focusing on today about the listening with both ears. This is where that tool will come into great resource and a source of empowerment for you, is by using your breath. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're also going to continue, hold on one sec, we're also going to continue with empowering and positive thoughts this week, and we're also going to look again, which is similar to like your life priorities, your wheel of life, the big things, the big rocks that you place in your life first, which is going to help you foundationally become stronger and more reliant on the things that are sound and good and positive, where your time is being spent. Go ahead, Valerie. Did you have a...
Yeah, in addition to about the breathing, I actually I remember someone went to classes on how to breathe and how to alter, how to, resolve things with careful breathing, and I thought it was a bunch of hooey. But
no.
I do believe now, as I've gotten older, I do believe that is an incredible thing. And it's funny because one of the good things that I've done for myself, and you'll see it on my reports or whatever, my thing, which is now I am not a Buddhist, but I do think meditation is important. And Oprah, I call it the Oprah Chopra meditation challenges. It's actually Deepak Oprah or something like that. They have a series of meditations, and the first thing they do is talk about the breathing. And I love it. It's positive stuff. Oprah talks first. She talks about, it's usually themed, and it's positive, bringing positive aspects into your life, dwelling on the positive.
Right.
Meditating on each theme for the day or whatever. Yep. And they talk initially before they even send you to meditate. It's breathe, vision your breath. It's all about breathing, and I do believe that it's really important.
Right. And so for some of you that have to use like a counting method with your breath, you can inhale a 7 count or a 4 count, 7 count, and then exhale that 7 count. And that will help build in that stamina with that. The other thing is, I've learned a great technique. We had a guest speaker at one of our workshops for young girls, and she taught everybody nostril breathing. I've even found that while I'm on the freeway in my car, and so let's say I get a phone call or a text that's disturbing, and I feel myself getting anxious and overwhelmed with those emotions and physiological responses. Nostril breathing is actually amazingly effective in that time of stress, where you breathe and you're breathing and you're imagining at the same time how you're inhaling through let's say the left nostril first, exhaling then all of the air out of the right nostril. Then you're breathing the next breath up through the right nostril and then bringing it back over through the left nostril. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about holding it?
No. You could do this while you're driving, while you're sitting. You literally, you breathe it up your left nostril, and you pull it out. You concentrate, so you move your concentration. So you combine, the physical take action aspect of the breath with the concentration almost of the visual presence of concentrating to bring it up the one nostril first, exhaling it out of the opposite nostril next, and then rotating that, coming back up that nostril on the right and out the left. You will be amazed. Within 2 minutes or less, you will be centered, grounded, and focused, not reacting to whatever disturbing news you may got, as an example. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So put it on your list of do or try, right? Because it will help you. Let's first start off really quick with the high and the low of everybody's day or week. And Kathy, why don't we start with you?
Let's see. The high of my week, I got an A on the test that I was studying for. I remember I had told you guys about a test, and then my low of the week, I'm not in the right positive mindset right now, so I'm still pretty down, but I guess that would be the low of my week.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to, if you feel comfortable enough to share, when we move into the positive, the positive mental attitude component of today, perhaps we can talk a little bit about that and show others and demonstrate and how we apply the methodology and the tool into our daily practice. Okay. I'm sorry that you are. The reason I've created this program is I've suffered greatly from negative self-thinking and self-doubt and those critical thoughts, and still I have to realize and recognize when that's happening and apply the methods that I'm teaching on a continued basis, because we can easily slip right back into that. I mean, that's there's multiple reasons, like we discussed in the prior week, about why that happens, right? How it's been created. And in all honesty, if you simplify it, it's just a habit. And it's a habit that you can break and that you can change. And it doesn't make you less than an awesome person than you are. This is indicative to all human beings, okay? So I encourage you to not give up and to keep practicing, even if you feel it's not working. It will eventually work, and you'll be able to apply it more rapidly and readily. All right.
Okay.
All right, Genesis, how about you? Your high and your low, please.
I guess my low would have been getting sick.
Yeah.
And then and then my high would be that despite that, I managed to catch up with all of my schoolwork.
Okay, good for you.
Thank you.
All right, Carly.
My low of the week was probably just being so stressed out, and usually I go to the gym like 4 to 5 days a week, and I didn't go once this week because I was just so busy with everything, so that kind of made me feel bad. But my high of the week was that I went to Disneyland on Sunday, and it was not crowded, and I had a great time.
Well, you got exercise there.
Yeah.
Running around that place is ridiculous. I don't even like going there because of that.
Yeah.
All right, good for you, Isha.
My high of the week was I assisted on a wedding.
On a wedding?
Yeah, and that was my first American wedding, by the way. So I was
good for you.
Yeah, so I was quite excited about it. And because I think I was standing for like 11 hours straight, so I got really sick after that. I couldn't even get up from my bed. So I think that was my low point.
Oh.
So, yeah, but I had fun.
Good for you. Valerie?
Well, it's something silly, but my low point, I was very, very, very frustrated, and you'll see my notations in the you rhythm, because I went for a week without a bed, and I was so irritated because I broke down, and this is a huge splurge because buying a bed is a huge thing. It's very, very expensive.
Yes.
I didn't, I wasn't going cheap, because I expect to have it. Now, I got a bed, and I paid a lot of money for it, and I bought it from Costco, and it was only online, and they had to deliver it, but it looked like a bed. It's like a Tempur-Pedic. Anyway, fancy.
Oh, I got one of those from Costco.
Did you?
A memory foam. Yeah, it's really deep and thick. I love it. It helped me with my joints and my body. I had to get it.
Well, I've been 3 days in it, because it did finally come, but I was a week without it.
Oh, no.
Kept screwing up the delivery, and I was then I really should have used the nostril breathing. Thank you very much. So, the day before it actually got here, because I had been out of bed and sleeping and thank you God, this is my grateful part, that I have a guest room and a bed to sleep in.
There's your thankfulness.
But yes, that's my thankfulness. It is on my chart. But I've been sleeping in another room, and it just feels discombobulating. So my low point was when they called me, and the fools said, well, after a week, and they were supposed to deliver the next day, and the guy from Costco called me and said, well, he said, well, it wasn't received, the damaged one wasn't received in the warehouse, but we can have you another bed by next Thursday, which would make it 2 weeks without a bed. And I was like, that was my low point. But I raised a little cane and said, you really, this is because I was keeping notes. I had 2 pages of notes.
Right.
Really twisted with me. Anyway, so that was a low point. But I did get it. That wasn't my high point getting it, although that could have been. My high point was being loved. I put on a huge brunch on Sunday, and
oh, nice.
Getting the kudos. I worked myself silly, and my daughter's still here helping me clean up. It was very successful. Not in my mind, because that's what I do. I do negative self-talk, but everyone had a wonderful time, and I got loved on and appreciated.
Good. That's really important. I mean, this is a great lesson for all of us, and something I had to learn to master and take in was, after suffering for so long of being, feeling isolated and feeling depressed or feeling alone and not worthy, that I had a very hard time throughout my life taking kudos and taking the love in. In fact, so much that I used to cross my arms when people would try to hug me.
I cried for you because I feel that. I know it.
Yeah. And so I'm finally, past that. Past several years, I've worked on being able to receive the love, but it first had to come from the self-love for our own self. And so you'll see that's part of our Girls Empower curriculum, and that once we're able to not only receive love, but then the next step would be to receive a praise, to receive the kudos and the props for our great work that we've done. I mean, I'll be honest, I still find a hard time for me when people do that. I mean, I think whether it's humility or it's just uncomfortable or you know what, honestly, I still think I could do a better job. And so I'm still that critic of myself going, okay, great, thank you so much for the compliment, but inside I'm thinking I could have done better, or I wanted to do better, or maybe I would do different. So I have to literally go, no, stop that. You are a success. You completed this event, or you completed this whatever, and it is an accomplishment, Melinda, and give yourself a pat on the back and allow yourself to receive that compliment. And it's so important. So it's a great example that Valerie brought up, that whether or not you struggle with this or not, if you are, understand that it is crucial and vital to your success, overall success in life, as this being one of the components where you need to get better at, like I did, that you need to realize that you may have a difficult time receiving love or receiving those compliments, but however, once you are more in a place of loving yourself and understanding that you have forgiveness, you give yourself grace, which we'll talk about later on, that you're unique and you embrace your skill sets and you understand your value, right? Part of the whole package of your success is being able to recognize your achievements. Make sense? And when we do SMART goal setting, that's kind of why we have that included, about many milestones is that we need to see the progress of those milestones. And once again, this is where you recognize your attributes, you recognize your success, you recognize how you've come from point A to point Z. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind going forward. So this week, we're continuing to talk about setting the right priorities, developing and living with a positive mindset, utilizing our positive outlook on how to influence and win friends, build integrity, treat people good. Part of building integrity, part of being able to treat people good, part of being able to have and keep a positive mindset is attainable through conquering and achieving listening with both ears. I have to always say that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, and so we'll get to that. But first, we're going to talk about putting the big rocks first. So if you've printed out your sheet of paper, or if you haven't, you could draw a quick jar like I've illustrated there for yourself. You can even make the list in a bullet point fashion, and then add those to your printed sheet that you can keep for yourself. If you I encourage you to get a binder and hole punch all these pages that you're doing, print it out, keep it for yourself so that you can look back on it. Keep them in your computer so you can always download them and do them again. So the big rocks first. This is a great, unfortunately, we're not in a workshop to where we can illustrate this, but when I illustrate this, you can look up that illustration. There's been professors that have done it with golf balls. We do it with rocks and sand and the water, and we present a jar. We have the children look at how we're placing big rocks in first, and we say, hey, is this jar full? And some of the kids will say, yeah. And then we go, okay, and then we'll put smaller pebbles in, and we'll say, okay, is it full now? And they'll be like, well, yeah, or some, some might recognize, no, not quite. But the majority, the point of it is that we can keep putting stuff in our jar. But are we putting the right stuff in our jar? And then we can pour water in this jar, and we know that, a house made of sand is not strong foundationally. We want a house or a life. Metaphor for that is to be built on a strong foundation. So I'm not sure if I included with you my example. I could probably find my jar of life and share with you so that you see the image of okay, hold on one sec, I'm getting that up. For you so you guys can see mine jar of life. This is an example. I don't think this is mine specifically, but this is an example that we share with young girls. It's going to be similar to maybe how you've developed your wheel of life. Can you see this page?
It's coming up, I think. I got a black screen. Oh, here it is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. So, and I can increase this. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Jar of life. Okay, so some of us have faith and we believe in God, or we spend time with our Christian community, or whatever our religious preference is, but our community, that may go first. Obviously, your family. Play is represented, that's for kids, but it's representative of maybe your hobbies, maybe what you're passionate about, maybe what what brings you great joy. So include that in your rock. Some of us need sleep to function. I mean, it's so important to me, my sleep. We need fun, healthy food, our friends, and our life, right? So this is a very, very simple exercise, and but it is really important for us to get a visual aspect and acknowledge, how are you spending your time once again? What are you filling your jar with? If you're spending all your time on Facebook, I've been guilty of that. That's not so great, right? This week we're going to introduce inspirational reading, and this ties into what we're filling our mind with, how we're spending our time. So a lot of these exercises in Girls in Power are to just get you to think about what you're doing, think about how you can change and improve upon that, because what each and all of us wants, and you guys let me know if I'm wrong or mistaken, but I believe it's to feel successful. To be part of feeling success is feeling happy, fulfilled, and like we are contributing to society, that we are actually making a difference, that we are growing in our own life and with our own self, along with improving our relationships with other people, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just going to call on a couple of you. You guys can share with me really quick what you would put in your jar of life. Isha, how about you?
I think I would put maybe hope.
Okay, so having more hope and faith.
Yeah, like hope and faith.
That's critical to our success and
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's good to keep hoping for better things in your life.
Absolutely. Being positive about that.
Yeah. So being hopeful is one thing I would definitely put in my jar.
Okay, great. Anything else that you want to share?
I think a good change, like a positive change.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah, that would be the word, like positivity. So that
positivity, right?
Your brain works in a good direction, in a correct direction.
Good. That's a good point.
I think this should cover all.
Yep. Well, yeah. So having a positive mindset, meaning Isha is talking about, if I understand her correctly, spending more time in the present moment and having a good sense of that positive thought, positive visions, that you're going to attract more positivity in your life if you're, one, coming from a place of optimism, coming from a place of gratitude. That's another thing you may put in your jar, is gratitude and thankfulness, appreciation for what we do have. Being hopeful and mindful of everything in the moment. The whole program is designed, if you haven't figured out by now, to teach you how to be in the moment. Once again, I go back to being still and creating a margin. That is vital to learning how and adopting it as a habit of being present and in the moment. The more time we spend in the moment, not in the past, not in the future, that we are connected, with the universal laws and God and everything, and that we are able to not be reactive and be rational, which means we're handling things better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you, Kathy? Any big rocks that you'd like to share that are different from Isha's?
Well, I put the obvious, family, and I guess one that would be different would be love.
Good. It's a good one. We need to have love.
Yep.
Experience love, give love.
I think these are like kind of interchangeable, but health and exercise.
Absolutely. How about you, Carly?
The only thing that I put different in there would be like education and learning, and work, and having fun at the same time.
Good, good. How about you, Valerie?
Oh, well, the girls have mostly mentioned a lot of things. I don't have a big family life, and it's funny because I have a dichotomy here. I have the idea of what I want, what I would like to have my jar filled. I want to have a husband and a family.
Then put it in your jar, because you're going to focus and visualizing on attracting those things.
Right.
I also encourage you to make a list. A lot of times when we're looking for a new spouse or a new partner, we're looking to bring in the right kind of person. It's really important. This is great that Valerie's kind of touched upon this, and I want to expand because, I'm even teaching this to my daughters, that, and I think we talk about in Girls in Power, that it's so important when relationships do not work out to first identify what we didn't like about them, but we're not using that to dwell or be negative. We're using that to spawn our desire list, our desires of the types of people or types of partner that we want in our life. I want a self-sufficient man. I want a man who's independent but still open and sensitive. I want a man who was caring, not just about himself, but they're selfish, but caring for other people. When we've been with a man who's unselfish and doesn't have the same desire to change the world or care for people, whether they're homeless or whatever, we have someone maybe who's cynical, right? we've identified we don't like that because that's not maybe what we're about. So we want to identify some similarities in things that are important to us, because otherwise you'll be mismatched. So I really encourage you, even if you're in a relationship, to focus on what you do want in that relationship so that you will start to construct and attract and build that into your life. Make sense?
Yeah.
Genesis, really quick, do you have anything to add to the Jar of Life? Have you thought about...
I guess it just about covered everything besides sleep.
Yeah, that's on my list, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so let's move on. Just getting my... Okay, after the Jar of Life, we move into PMA, positive mental attitude. This was originally a concept that was first developed and introduced in 1937 by Napoleon Hill in an infamous book, Think and Grow Rich, which is actually free now. I forget what they call it. My husband's referred to this website before, but publications that are so many years old are then available to the public to be used without having to purchase it. So it's called a domain. I think it's actually a public domain name now. So you can actually find that, or if you want the link to locate some of these amazing books, send me your email and I will forward it to you, how to access these books. Another one I think is Psycho-Cybernetics, which is a great book, and I will make several references to it, and I have it, and I can send that to you as well in a PDF. But positive mental attitude goes along. The first stepping stone to this was getting you to realize your limiting beliefs or negative talk, and then understanding how important it is to have empowering counter talk. So the positive mental attitude definitely takes that to the next step, and understanding that, once again, whatever your mind can think about, conceive, visualize, then you can take action and bring that into your world and start actively doing that. I feel like I'm kind of a broken record, but negative thoughts have an impact and an effect on your surrounding environment, and it goes along with understanding the universal law of how whatever we're perceiving in our world today, we are manifesting that ourselves, and perceiving it because it's what we think, it's what we want. So if you're hitting roadblocks or you're stumbling along the way and you're finding yourself, I went through years saying to my advisors, I feel like there's a black cloud over my head, and I was recognizing all of these things that were wrong, things that I wasn't either achieving, or difficult and stressful relationships that were just constantly tearing me down. And I really, about the time right before I came out with Girls in Power, about 2008, after my last suicide attempt in 2009, I had to take responsibility that I was creating that black cloud, and that I couldn't blame other people for how I was feeling and how I was thinking. I had to take ownership and understand that if that is in my world, I have attracted it and I've created it myself. Now, that doesn't mean that when bad things happen that there's still a responsibility for that person who's done wrong to you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to ignore the fact that people are being less than nice, or they're not, they're not having appropriate boundaries. But that's why in Girls in Power we have to teach the other side of this positive thinking is, while you want to be positive, you have to develop very clear boundaries and limits for yourself. Because that's critical in keeping you in a safe place, not making you vulnerable to the point of being destroyed by other people, or by allowing other people to dictate and control your life. Am I making sense to everyone? Yeah. Okay, good. So, if we haven't already done boundaries and limits, we will definitely do that, and that's certainly something that we talk about in the Surefire event coming up, Friends and Frenemies. So, with the PMA, we're going to develop three statements that are going to be unique to you, obviously, and this mindset is going to create, abundance, enthusiasm. It's going to give you a solution rather than living in fear or having a negative mindset. So they're similar to the statements that you created in last week's lesson, limiting versus empowering beliefs. Those I am statements. So the reason for the different description, positive versus a mental statement versus an attitude, you can think of it in terms of an attitude statement would be more about your perspective taking, how you're observing your world, how you're responding to it. So that statement would be something that you would create that is like a way of living, a way of thinking. For example, I think one of you mentioned, having a grateful attitude amidst a frustrating experience. Valerie, you kind of touched upon that, which was great, illustrating, you were without a bed for a period of time. You had to kind of fight to get it, and it was still later or longer than you wanted. However, you recognized you had a solution about being in your bedroom, another bedroom, and you had a grateful attitude of that this is what you were, ending up with, or that the fact that you had another bedroom to go to, even though it was an inconvenience for you. So a mental attitude or a mental statement would be, you would frame that around, keeping a positive mindset, having a grateful heart and a thankful mind. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So
I wasn't my attitude the whole time during the debacle.
No, yeah.
I did recognize that at some point.
That's great, yeah. And so developing a nice personal statement for yourself, once again, this is something that you can put on your iPhone as a reminder. It can be put on a note card to be used as a bookmark, or a note card that's on your bathroom mirror, in the dash of your car. I mean, when I started out, you guys, I had to put this stuff everywhere. On my refrigerator. I mean, I encourage you to not think that you're being redundant. I encourage you that the only way to adopt these thoughts that are positive, attitudes that are positive, a way of living that is positive, is to build the habit in by doing it, saying it, thinking it, and seeing it repetitively. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So an attitude statement could be something that's more around our disposition and how we're approaching life, like being open, to receiving love, being open to criticism, yet being able to self-reflect, or being able to recognize our unique skills and our assets, and what we're really good at. Make sense? So your first one, positive statement, could be just a blanket statement about you in your life, or what you want, or what you want to feel like. Like, I am victorious, right? I am a smart and giving woman. I am. So think of these in terms as statements and a mantra that you want to adopt and use to help you throughout your day. Eventually, as you build this in as a habit, as things become, as they will, difficult in life, things don't go your way, or you're having a problem with a friend or a loved one, these statements are building up your value, your confidence, and letting you feel empowered and reminded, even through the storm or the difficult period of time. You will be able to draw upon the sense of a good, positive well-being. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Has anyone jotted one down that they'd like to share?
I did.
Go ahead.
I am filled with limitless potential. You was talking about blanket statement, and that's
it.
I have all sorts of specifics, but I think that is really an encompassing thing that I want to achieve. Yep,
there you go.
I just am not doing it, and I feel like I want to remind myself.
Absolutely. And so that's a great example that Valerie gave, was utilizing a statement that's twofold, and one that is a great reminder of what you're working on and what you want to achieve and where you want to be in life, is to have that attitude. and not an attitude like things aren't going my way, or I'm not progressing, or I'm being lazy, or whatever. She has an unseen potential, a great potential. It's limitless. There's no ceiling on it. Make sense? So I want you all to work on these and think about them, and I want you to upload them and send them to me. You don't even have to put them in that sheet. If you want to just send them in an email or on a Word doc, because I'm saving all your documents that you send in a file so that we can kind of track your progress, and I'm going to have you, give me an overall, like, how far you've come at probably by next week, kind of like a testimonial of what's helped you change or acquire, or how you're looking at life, okay? Does anybody else have a statement that they'd like to share before we go on?
Before we do, I would like to also, my mind wandered because I was getting good stuff, but so I would like you to review the mental statement, the difference between that and the attitude statement.
Okay. Mental, I think I was explaining that, I have to go back into my mind, that, for example, Valerie, when earlier you mentioned that your process of getting that new bed and going without one, what you did was really great, is that at some point you realized, I'm grateful for X, Y, or Z, what I have here. I'm grateful for this extra room that I had, even though I'm inconvenienced. So we leave out the even though or the whatever, but it's I'm grateful. I mean, that is a mental thought. I am lovable.
Gotcha.
Right? I can achieve.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm sorry for making you go back.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I wandered because I was thinking about the other good stuff. So
I'm grateful for my working memory. I was doing research on ADHD children, and part of the ADHD complex is that we don't have those kids or those adults don't have access to the working memory, which we need in so many areas, whether it's math, whether it's communication and speech, that we need to be able to go back and draw upon things that have already occurred and use that memory in order to construct or finish a problem or to handle something. Does that make sense? So just a little side note on, it takes working memory to be able to do that, and not everybody has that, and that can be a real challenge for people. Okay, going to move on here. All right, so this may be obvious to maybe all of you about what it really takes to win friends and keep friends. I just wanted you to see that this is a model that we use in Girls Empower with girls and mentors, and that these are the things that we need to be reminded of, that I'm sure that all of you are these things. Can you see my screen? I've shared it with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So that these are things, these are values that for me, my majority in sharing this main reason is not just because I want you to think about what type of person you need to be. I mean, that's where maybe flexibility comes into, an acceptance and understanding, or the ability to share. But really, you're looking for these things in other people, right? That you want to use these as a guideline, or maybe you have your own values that you want to add to this, certainly, so that while we have you've all had friendships throughout your life and your years, and some have been easier and some have been harder. And once again, this is where boundaries and limits will come in, is with your friends and your loved ones, and these relationships with people, whether they're coworkers or family, that you have to have an understanding of what your boundaries and limits are and how you draw those effectively by communicating them, by setting an example as a role model. The same thing being true with these values and what it takes not only to be a good friend, but to attract good friends, or to identify when somebody is not what you need right then. Or we go back to our circle of support and we look at, well, this friend, or this person is supports what I need in this particular moment. So, but this whole winning and making friends for kids is really, really critical, because so many kids feel like as they're in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, where that's really difficult, that mean girls kind of coming out, that they have choices. They're not limited and they're not stuck to the people around them. That they have to become confident in understanding that part of their boundaries and their limit is determining what kind of a friend do they want to be and what kind of a friend do they want. This is just a simple guideline to that. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah. Okay. All right. So do you all have access to putting up, or did you print out the whole how to treat others? This has to do with the big picture thinking. We may have talked about some of this in the fishbowl perspective if I taught that in week 1. Sometimes I do, where you want a 20/20 vision. You want to use logic. You want to use facts. You want to observe more. You want to bring things into perspective. Once again, this is where your breathing is going to come into play. If you're not using this breathing, it is very hard to gain perspective appropriately. To be
Some water.
What?
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Oh, crap. I'm sorry. I wanted my daughter to get some. Oh.
Sure. There you go.
Sorry, I did the camera instead of the microphone. I was going to ask.
That's okay. So this is where I want you to start implementing that stop and pause. Take 3 breaths before you respond. Okay, very, very important. If you haven't been practicing it, or you have been, just continue to practice this, especially in a time of conflict, so that you're responding and not reacting. I'm sure you guys know the difference between responding and reacting. Reacting is when you're immediately, saying a response to somebody and it's not been well thought. It's been done in an emotional state of mind. You have to start drawing upon your breath in order to get you back quickly to a rational state of mind. I use a scripture from the Bible that is called quick to listen, slow to speak, quick to listen, and slow to anger. That mantra I've used forever, for a very long time, and I mean it has served me well. And you can put that in any form of your sentence if you're, don't use scripture, but the concept is going to fall in line with our whole listening with both ears and talking less. That to be most successful, I have found personally in very abusive situations with men that have been horrific, with maybe confrontations with school officials, teachers, if I'm trying to advocate for my child and I'm feeling like they're judging or they're saying things that just are really not thinking about the impact of their words, that I need to be slow to speak. And what that means is I'm observing more. I'm watching intently. I'm listening intently. I'm using my breath this entire time as I'm saying that mantra to myself. My breath is the only thing, and my recognition. Sometimes I'll put my hand over my mouth just so I listen more. If I'm having a really hard time keeping my mouth shut, I will just kind of cover my mouth in order to listen to them. And it reminds me of, don't speak right now. Take in all that information. Observe their body language. Look at their eyes. That way you're giving your brain enough time to process this information and formulate a well thought out a thought, and to also develop a clarifying question. A lot of times what will help us succeed in bringing that conversation or that conflict to an end, a resolution, is to sometimes be able to ask clarifying questions so that we really get the other person to think about, what have they said, what did they mean. At this point, you may find that person will change their position and say, oh no, that's I didn't mean that, this is what I meant. And you have to retrain that person, especially if it's your spouse or your boyfriend that continues to mess up and say things without thinking, hurt your feelings, is not being sensitive to your needs or to what's important. We are being a role model by asking those clarifying questions and getting them to become aware without putting them in the defensive, so that they are actually see, ooh, I keep saying things wrong. Now they will learn, oh, I have to think before I speak. I have to really take time before I present this information. Does that make sense? Okay, so conflict resolution, this is part of conflict resolution. Let's see if I can add anything else. You know, if you find you're a judgmental person, once again, I encourage you to keep those judgments in your brain and your thoughts, and use your breath to help you bring to a more sensible place. And I want you to start practicing grace and not judging that other person. People may, you know, what I've taught young kids a lot, especially with dealing with bullies, is that we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know where that grocery clerk is coming from, or that school person official. We don't know where maybe our spouse or our partner has had a really bad day and they've had some difficult things that they dealt with and they haven't quite had enough time to share them with us yet, right? Maybe our mom, we reach out to our mom and we hit her on a bad moment and we're like, ooh, what happened, right? Why is mom not being so loving or so supportive right now? We are all living our lives by ourselves, right? And meeting people and working with people, but we are our own person who's experiencing things in the moment with others that can leave a lasting effect of feeling down, frustrated, angry, upset. And then somebody approaches us, say you approach that person who's dealing with that, you don't know what's going on with them. Am I making sense to you? So what we teach girls in the program with bullying is, while they develop their boundaries and their limits, they understand the right difference between what's appropriate, what's not appropriate behavior. They're using their I statements to effectively communicate. They're listening with both ears of what that person's saying. They're realizing I haven't done anything wrong to cause or warrant this bully. However, I'm recognizing that that bully or that person that's angry or upset has probably got something going on in their world that I'm not even aware of. So this is where we practice empathy and compassion and not judgment and grace. But we don't sacrifice ourselves to be a doormat, right? We draw limits and boundaries using effective communication and I statements, and honoring our own feelings and recognizing that they may be having a bad day, to simply put it. Make sense? You can practice all of this, and I encourage you with everybody in your life. The more you practice, the better you're going to get. I promise that black cloud won't be following you. You'll find that you're having more harmonious relationships. But not only that, more importantly, when you are having a conflict, you're going to survive it. It's not going to rock your world so much that you can't function. It's not going to stop you from achieving your goals. You know what I mean? Yeah. So very critical. Okay. So when we're in workshops, we typically pair up and we have a partner where we practice this active listening with both ears, where we watch their body language, we allow one person to talk, the other person listens, we formulate where they're coming from, we identify what's important, we may ask a clarifying question, we're not talking with judgment, and we are then, that's called two-way communication, right? Because our words are so powerful and they can so push somebody in the wrong direction where you really don't want them to go. You want to bring them in. You want to be able to hear them. You want to have empathy, compassion. But most importantly, what you're doing, you guys, is, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I felt like, oh, I always have to be the bigger person. Why do I always have to do it right? Everyone else is doing it wrong. I mean, I suffered with, thought those things my entire life. Like, why is this happening, right? So one, we take responsibility for what we're bringing into our life. Two, you have the power to change it with other people. If you practice this model with everyone, I promise you, your relationships are going to improve. They're going to be more harmonious. You're going to identify who the heck you don't want in your life, and you can eliminate them more easily. Does that make sense? Because you're empowered with your limits and your boundaries. You've identified what's important to you. You've already practiced this with them, and they haven't picked up the role modeling aspect. In other words, we can change, like a child can change the relationship with their mother and father if they are actively doing this, because the parent is going to recognize, oh wow, my child's actually being more respectful. They're hearing and listening to me, but they're not taking my bullshit. The same can be true for a parent with a child. A parent demonstrates all of these techniques the child will come around. So remember this, if any of you all have babies in the future, children, and you're raising them, how critical it is to get this right. Empathy, compassion, active listening, which is listening with both ears, and combining all of this with that big picture thinking, that fishbowl perspective. Make sense? And then adding your boundaries and your limits into it. All right. So you guys can, and if you go and look at the examples of the I statements, I mean, can you relate to how people become defensive when you use a you statement and you're accusatory? Yeah. It goes to holy hell, right? It's just like a nightmare. So, like, once you have to just practice it and use it as much as, you know, shoot for 100% in your daily communication of rephrasing statements using an I statement first. It can be a little awkward and frustrating or difficult in the beginning if you're not already using them habitually, but the more you use it and practice it and push that as your focus of developing an I statement rather than just reacting and saying you did this, you did that, you know, start with I'm really feeling criticized right now because of how you said blah blah blah. I'm hurt right now because I feel like I haven't been heard. The person who's hearing you say that is literally going to be like, whoa, because they're going to have a sense of responsibility that they're the ones that have caused you to feel that way. You're now creating and pushing on them to feel empathy for you, which is going to shift their perspective, and that's what you want. It's perspective taking. You want to encourage them to change their perspective.
You're allowing them to feel empathy for you rather than being on the defensive.
You want them to empathize because you want to be heard. We all human beings want to be first and foremost heard. We want to feel valued. We want to be in control. Part of the feeling of control is an illusion, but it comes from developing relationships that are mutually respectful and honored. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I encourage you to go through that and start practicing, and I'd love to hear how you're actually doing. You could feel free to take the tests on page 14. And we talked a little bit about bullying. I can send you a sheet later on that is just a questionnaire and a pledge that you take that identifies if you've recognized bullying, if you've experienced it. We also do this in our Surefire event, so I'll send that to you. Feel free to answer the questions and send that back with your weekly reflection report, your positive statements, okay? So there's 3 things there. So I'll send you and forward you a bullying questionnaire. I'll send you the pledge to sign and keep for yourself, and just to see that you're going to, not tolerate that. You're going to stand up, but you're going to do it effectively and empathetically. Send me your reflection and send me your positive statements. Also this week, I think I had in the very beginning of the slide, that inspirational reading. If you're interested, I will send you my list of recommended books, but I encourage you to just, whatever you're interested in improving yourself or self-growth, or you want to help yourself have a more perspective of positive thinking, there's so many books out there, some of which I'm going to include for you that I've read that I recommend, okay? Start with 15 minutes a day. Yeah. Might seem like a lot if you're in school, if you feel like you're already doing a lot of reading. And if it is, just try 10 minutes. I mean, just get a chapter read or a half a chapter read, but you have to start somewhere, and this will reinforce that positive thinking if you're inputting inspirational reading, motivational reading, self-help, good positive perspective taking. Make sense?
Yes.
All right, so next week it's going to say week 4 and 5, and then we're going to finish up with week 6 so that we've got all the training done by the Surefire event. I will be sending an email out on the Surefire event. I'll need you all to send me back like, hey, I'm in, I feel comfortable doing this, or you have more questions. And perhaps next week I'll talk a little bit more about what those breakout sessions look like You're going to get the material in advance for what I'm teaching at the Surefire event, so that every teacher gets that. Even though I'm teaching it, but you're going to be, if some of you will be sitting within the groups that break out, and help facilitate that small group of 5 girls. Does that make sense? All right. Well, I encourage you to continue journal writing. Does anybody have any questions before I go?
Yes.
Go ahead. Who said yeah?
Kathy. Yes.
Kathy?
Oh, I was just agreeing with what you were saying.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you all have a blessed week. Valerie and Isha, I'll see you tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, okay.
All right. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.